British Columbia's coastal forest, a source of beauty and our biggest farm crop. Each crop takes a lifetime to grow. The farmers are the tree harvesters, and now they do much more than fall trees. They raise fish, provide for wildlife, conserve the environment, and enhance their community. They will develop better trees and will plant several new trees for every tree harvested. This is the story of Western Forest Products, one of British Columbia's leading forest companies. Long before an area is harvested, plans for its reforestation are made. Plans are available for public review and are approved by government agencies, so each is carefully mapped long before harvest. Once the plans are approved, many kilometers of roads are built, road rugged enough to carry the huge logging trucks into the harvest site. Many of British Columbia's public highways were first built as private roads for forestry. Western Forest Products has built perhaps 5,000 kilometers of road, so employees and contractors can get to the harvest sites. Each tree is felled with care to land it where no one can be hurt, and in such a way as the wood in the tree isn't damaged. The yellow machine is the loader, the orange one the grapple yarder. These two machines work as a team. The grapple can reach out the length of a city block into a cut area without leaving the logging road. While the loader is loading logs onto trucks, the grapple is yarding in more trees, moving them across cut areas and up slopes to within reach of the loader. The trucks are twice as big as any truck allowed on public roads. Each carries 100 tons of logs, enough wood to make 2 average-sized homes. The trucks take the harvest to water, where an operator removes the load. Once in the water, the logs will be formed into a boom, to be moved to a central collection point. Water is the way most harvested wood is transported. Back on land again, they'll be sorted. This place is a kind of clearinghouse, called simply a log sort. Logs from several harvest sites are separated for size, species, and timber quality. Scalers at the log sort calculate how much wood is in each log. Their figures are used to gauge how much wood is available to Western Forest Products customers and how much stumpage is due. Stumpage is the fee each forest company pays the government for harvesting wood from land the government owns. Once sorted, the wood goes back into the water to be towed or barged to market, and often the market is a sawmill in Greater Vancouver. One Western customer, though, is Western's own pulp mill in Port Alice. Poorer quality trees are put into one end of a pulp mill, logs, for example, with rot in the middle. The logs will be chipped into little pieces. And what comes out the other end is wood fiber that has been cooked and pressed and dried into rolls like thick paper. This is called wood cellulose. Most people call it pulp. It is shipped right around the world to make all kinds of things.
Probability is pretty good that almost everyone is wearing something, at least, that's been made from our pulp.
For example, acetate cloth or viscous rayon cloth. Pulp makes all kinds of plastics, sponges, and insoles for shoes. Western Forest Products operates on the coast of British Columbia. Head office is in Vancouver, but they're closer to communities around their harvest operations. Port Alice and Howe Sound are home to Western pulp mills, and timber is harvested in the Queen Charlottes, on parts of the mainland, and on Vancouver Island. Western manages land it harvests, mostly through tree farm licenses. The tree farm license works like this. The government gives the company long-term rights to harvest timber on government land. The company brings its own privately owned land into the tree farm, and it too is administered under the same conditions. Those conditions are: the company must harvest at the rate the government approves, pay the government for the wood as it is harvested, restore the forest as it is cut, care for wildlife, conserve the environment, and share the land for recreation. And some of the wood in the tree farm must be made available to small business operators in the license area. A tree farm license covers many square kilometers of territory, but much of it won't be harvested. Forest companies won't harvest along many streams. A lot of the territory may be water, lakes and rivers. Some trees will be left as winter range for deer, and many areas aren't accessible for harvesting. Territory that is harvestable is divided into perhaps 70 sections. And one section is cut each year because a forest takes perhaps 70 years to grow. In year 2, when the second section is cut, the first section is starting to grow again. In year 3, section 1 has grown still more. And as the years go on, the rotation becomes more apparent. Much of the British Columbia coast is like this. If you look carefully, you see not only the clear cuts, but the areas where new trees are 10 or 20 or 80 years old. Tree farm licenses give a forest company security. The grandsons of these harvesters work for companies like Western today because the companies have some assurance of a supply of raw material, wood. The first logging trucks in Port McNeill. A part of Western's corporate heritage is pioneer timber. After the war, forest workers used a spar and steam donkey to haul logs to the roadside. Western takes pride in helping the communities it is close to, like Port McNeill. That has meant helping build the golf course, the ball diamond, the new track and athletic field, the arena, and the swimming pool.
Port McNeill, where we're sitting in right now, was a community of 600 people 20 years ago. Most of those people were our direct employees. It's now a town of almost 3,000, and it's a major shift. We have less direct employees, but we have a lot more people that are very close to the company in terms of employment. They live in the community. We have schools here. It's the tree farm licenses that have made that difference.
In recent years, people have begun questioning the way our forests are cared for. Over the last decade, the forests have filled with scientists, as growing trees has become quite sophisticated. Yet more and more people are questioning why it is that forest companies do the things they do. The first question is often, why clear cut? Why do loggers have to cut down all the trees? Why not leave some standing? One reason is the health of the forest. The BC coast is known for strong winds. In 1906, thousands and thousands of hectares of forests were blown down by wind, and smaller blowdowns happen frequently. Cutting only some trees would make those remaining more susceptible to wind. Clear-cutting, removing all the trees, also removes disease, like mistletoe.
Mistletoe is a parasitic plant that exists in hemlock stands on the coast, and the way it's passed on is from old mature trees to younger developing trees. What clear cutting allows us to do is, in the total removal of the old diseased trees, it allows the developing hemlock stand to be much healthier than it would normally be.
You control the disease by harvesting all the trees, and the new forest will be free of mistletoe. But it is the health of the forest worker that really dictates clear cutting. The faller already has the most hazardous job in the woods. He can notch the tree to aim its fall very precisely, but if a gust of wind catches its top, it could go off course and knock over other trees. And falling branches could unpredictably hit anyone.
On these steep mountainsides, what you'll be doing is falling trees into other standing timber, which causes a hazard to the faller. I wouldn't take a selective logging contract on the coast here. I've been here for 6 years now, and I'm not sure that there would be too many other contractors that would take it because of the safety aspect of falling in steep ground like this.
So why don't loggers clean up their mess after clear cutting? A lot of this looks like wood someone must want.
The log itself is well knotted, and it has lots of rot through the outside and check. And then on the end, you look in here, and there's no usable fiber.
The forest companies welcome anyone who wants waste wood. Some is taken for firewood or for making shakes and shingles, but most people find it costs more to remove than it's worth. But waste isn't waste. It's like garden compost. It will break down, become soil, and nourish the next crop of trees. Slash burning. Ugly, isn't it? Burning is becoming a kind of art. They usually burn in spring when the ground is wet, when the air is calm. The objective is a very precise burn, to get rid of surface material that would be a real fire hazard or would impede reforestation, but leave soil undamaged.
places where there's been a particularly old stand with a lot of rot in it, and perhaps there was salal or some other brush species growing underneath, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of material there. And when it's all piled up, it's almost impossible for a tree planter to get down and find the ground in a lot of cases.
The burn looks so immensely destructive, yet the ash acts as a fertilizer. 4 weeks after this burn, new vegetation is growing. Here's a burned clear-cut 3 years after replanting. The reforested new trees are about half a man's height. And 8 years later, new trees are twice a man's height. Burning seems to speed new growth. In many ways, forestry is like farming. Over the last summer, this was a cornfield, but now it's been harvested, and what's left behind doesn't look very good. In many ways, it's very like what's left behind a log site after it's been harvested. But just because it doesn't look good doesn't mean that it isn't good. All this debris, just like so-called waste wood left on a mountain logged site, will go back into the soil and nourish next year's crop. The balsam tree on the right was planted a few years ago, but many trees and stands need not be replanted. The hemlock on the left grew on its own. Replanting is almost automatic. Forest companies have been doing it for many years. In the harvested areas that need replanting, Western plants 5 new trees for every 1 harvested. The challenge is not to simply regrow what was there, but to plant the right trees, matched to the climate and soil conditions on each site. Harvesting seeds. Western collects seed from trees grown especially because they are genetically superior.
A genetically superior tree is what most people would associate with a nice-looking tree, a tree that is straight, a tree that has nice branching characteristics, it's free of disease. These are the sorts of things that we would like to have in a tree.
Here's a whole orchard full of parent trees. They were grown from rooted cuttings collected from the best trees in nature, and seeds from these trees will start superior crops for the future. The superior seeds become superior seedlings. Western seed goes to nurseries, which under contract grow the 2 million seedlings Western plants each year. Young stands of trees are now being thinned so the best trees can improve. And Western has begun pruning. Remove an extra branch from a tree today, and you remove a knot from a board tomorrow. Competitors and predators are a big challenge. This is salal, a brush that somehow seems to choke young trees, stifle their growth. Salal may give off chemicals harmful to trees, so soil samples are being taken. The soil is being tested for chemicals. This is a research project Western Forest Products is undertaking in cooperation with government, universities, and other companies. Herbicide works well against salmonberry, another competitor to young trees. It kills the salmonberry, but not the trees. And then there's these hungry green fellows, many millions of them. They leave tree branches like this. They tint trees red, whole forests are defoliated. Scientists are developing biological controls, a bacteria that will give the greenworms terminal indigestion. Sometimes you'll see a strip of trees through a clear cut, left along a stream to stabilize the bank and prevent erosion. The trees shade the water and keep it cool, and insects fall from the trees and provide food for the fish. In the distance, our telephoto lens spots a deer. Many animals love the new growth in clear cuts. Helicopter surveys of wildlife are done in tree farm licenses. In early morning, elk come out to feed, which allows scientists to get an accurate count of elk populations. There are lots of bears too, but they don't think much of noisy helicopters. Eagles' nests are counted and mapped from the air, and trees with nests are left standing. Western raises fish, salmon and steelhead, 500,000 of them a year. The company has several hatcheries and is an active partner with federal government and community volunteers. The company provides the public roads to get to the forests in its care, and parks and campgrounds, so that anyone can enjoy the land and resources Western manages. In many cases, Western's tree farms come right up to some spectacular beaches on the west coast. It will probably be Western Forest Products logging roads you take to get close to the beach. And chances are you'll find in the forest or amongst the harvested areas a parking lot or campsite put there for everyone to use by Western Forest Products. So the forest company must ensure trees for all time and must share the forest with people and wildlife. At Western, the health of the forest is the responsibility of professional foresters.
I went into forestry because I felt that I could contribute something to society. And I don't think that I could live with myself if we weren't doing a good job reforesting.
Cindy raises a good point. There are questions about whether the future of the forest is secure, but forest workers and their families are optimistic. We're at a neighborhood gathering in Port Alice. The people here depend on forestry for their families' well-being and expect that their children and grandchildren will have an opportunity to work in forestry too.
In the logging around here that I've seen, there's always, it's replanted, it goes green again, they grow up, and 70 years from now we'll be logging it again.
The crop here takes a little longer to grow than like wheat, for example, or something like that, eh? You know, we're 7,500 years before our crop matures again.
I think overall the company is doing far better than they did, and they do plant a lot of trees. And I think they do take care with the forest. You know, we see the place that I logged 28 years ago, and today you wouldn't even recognize them.
The industry is going to protect their interest. Logging is their business, so of course they want trees for their future business. And there will be always a forest.
The ground seems unstable. In a virgin forest, old growth they call it, the ground is covered with hundreds of years of undisturbed debris. This is a stand of Sitka spruce. The trees mature, their growth all but over. This stand is within a tree farm license, but Western Forest Products has decided it will not be harvested. Instead, it will be preserved for public enjoyment.
This will be open to the public for full recreational use. And we probably will be putting a trail in here eventually, just so it's a little easier access for people as well.
And this is third growth. A century ago, the original forest was harvested. The replacement forest was cut 11 years ago.
Papa's chicken farm here, feeding the chickens on the farm.
We got some taken down at Vantage 25 years ago, back east.
Yeah, they're funny looking birds, some of them. Maybe the old rooster. And here's the coyote chaser. Sheba. That's a good dog. I'm going back to pick it up postcard. That would look nice in here too.
I remember when Edna, I guess that is when Edna was small.
Oh, so I got your ear.
She had natural curly hair, very, very thick hair, and I just loved it.
Whoa, you look at this there.
That one's stiff right there. What did you put there? It's stiff. Oh, like, quite stiff right here. We'll have to comb it out first.
Beauty of mountains and lakes and trees. Trees have always been our prosperity. They are the resource that fuels our economy, providing billions of dollars to government for roads and schools and hospitals. Each tree harvested in the forest brings a little well-being to the city. So our job is to harvest the forest and renew it for the future. We bring wood to people for homes and furniture and books. But these days, we also nurture better trees. We plant many more trees than we harvest. We help the creatures that share the forest with us. And we've opened the forest for everyone. This is our invitation to you to see forestry in the 90s, as practiced by the coastal forestry operations of Canadian Forest Products. Hi, I'm Christina McLeod. I work for the Vancouver office of Canadian Forest Products, Canfor. One of the really great parts of my job is going out and seeing how our people harvest timber and take care of the forests. So come on, let's take a look around.
Green lines will be the actual forest cover.
Forestry begins with planning, and today that is often done with computers. For instance, we'll need roads for harvesting, but we'll plan to build them so they're environmentally safe. Here's a mature forest ready for harvest, but first we'll need information to plan the next crop. Just as a doctor is trained to sustain life, a forester graduates from university trained to raise trees. By examining the forest and the soil below, the forester plans the next crop, deciding what kinds of trees will grow best and when and how they should be planted. Then, once all the roads have been built, the fallers can begin the harvest. Trees on the BC coast tend to be large and old. They're majestic trees, but they also tend to be overmature, decaying on the inside faster than they're growing. Each time a big tree falls, room is made for several vigorous new trees to be planted. Here's how the cut trees are gathered once the fallers are finished. The cables from this machine, a grapple yarder, reach out hundreds of meters, hauling each log across the cut area to the roadside. The yarder often works alongside another machine. Once it has the trees at the roadside, a loader just down the road can pick them up and place them on trucks. Logging trucks travel on roads we build especially for them. These roads are also for the public, and except where we're actively harvesting, they are open for anyone to enjoy the forest. In this case, our trucks haul the trees to the railway, where they're reloaded onto train cars. This is at our tree farm license on Vancouver Island. The railway is owned and operated by Canfor. Its run is 90 kilometers in length, and it's the transportation backbone of our Englewood division. The rail journey ends at the log sorting yard, a large area where wood is collected from several harvest locations. This is where we sort every marketable log so that each goes to its most valuable destination. Logs are piled according to species and size. A log good enough for high-grade lumber, for instance, won't end up just being chipped for pulp.
Come along and I'll just check out to see if there's any kind of defect.
Every log we harvest is scaled.
And we measure our diameters, doesn't matter whether we do the top or
the scaler notes both size and condition. This is the official record of our harvest.
Okay, as we get our numbers, then we punch them into our handheld recorders.
We pay the government for the wood we've harvested. It's a major source of government revenues for schools and hospitals, and scaling is how it's calculated. Once wood is sorted and scaled, it moves into the water and out of our hands. The next stop is the customer, a pulp mill or sawmill, perhaps in Greater Vancouver. Our wood and wood products are shipped to customers around the world. Canfor is a Canadian company based in British Columbia. We have a large research and development office in Vancouver and seed orchards in Sechelt, Kamloops, and Grand Prairie. We harvest wood from several woodlands bases in BC and Alberta. We have several sawmills and remanufacturing plants in Vancouver and in other centers. 2 pulp mills and a paper mill in the BC interior. And we're partners in a pulp mill and newsprint mill on the coast. This video is mainly about Canfor's coastal forestry operations. We have extensive timber cutting rights at our Englewood division on northern Vancouver Island, and smaller timber tenures near Pemberton, Harrison Mills, and on the Sunshine Coast. Canfor began as Pacific Veneer in BC's original capital city, New Westminster. The plant opened over 50 years ago, just before World War II. Pacific Veneer grew quickly, called upon to serve the war effort. making the leading wing edges for the famed mosquito bomber. Women worked with the paper-thin sheets of wood because the men were off fighting the war. We got our railway when we acquired timber rights on Northern Vancouver Island. With the war over, forest camps like Woss were becoming communities with back fences and families. It seemed then, decades ago, that British Columbia had trees for an eternity. We will have trees forever, and science is making sure of that. Some of our trees begin in test tubes. The man with me works with Canfor to tissue culture trees. Each tube contains a cutting. Each cutting comes from a superior tree in the forest, a tree that is growing straight and tall. The species here is growing in a test tube because this way we can grow quality trees faster than by using seed.
As it grows, we then find we end up with a culture that will look similar to this. A very full test tube, very well branched.
The species we're working with here is yellow cedar. My grandmother used to start new geraniums this way, although this is a lot more sophisticated. Here, Les Clay's people will break this cutting into 10 pieces and start 10 new test tubes. Here's another way we improve new forests. This is a Canfor seed orchard where we raise seed. We're growing trees chosen because they're superior, straight, tall, and free of defects. In springtime, we collect the male cones in the orchard, and after drying them, we extract the pollen. The pollen is used to fertilize female cones. The objective is to produce superior seed. Seed goes to the nursery. Hundreds of thousands of seeds from a number of species shipped to nurseries who contract with us. Growing seedlings is a big job. Canfor alone plants 20 million new trees a year. This is Reed Collins Nurseries. Canfor supplies seed to several contract nurseries. Their job is to monitor seedling growth to make sure each seed becomes a robust new tree. So seedlings get a year or two of royal treatment now to prepare them for 100 years of growth in the forest. The tree planters quickly become expert at finding good planting spots. Canfor plants about 3 trees for every tree we cut, and the objective is to get them planted promptly. The planter has to make sure each seedling goes into soil in which it can thrive. This planter probably won't see her work when it's mature, ready for harvest, a century from now, but her grandchildren will. Here's an alternative we're experimenting with. Instead of planting the seed at a nursery greenhouse, it is planted right in the forest. The plastic cone is a miniature greenhouse. The plastic will photodegrade, disintegrate, and the seedling will grow in the forest and avoid the shock associated with transplanting nursery seedlings. Yep, it's a milk carton. Deer and elk love to browse in harvest areas. They're welcome to the other plants, but we must protect the seedlings, and the milk cartons help. As a farmer checks his crop, so a forester monitors growth. With a core sample, you can examine this tree's growth rings without damaging the tree. This is a good-looking stand of trees, halfway through their growth cycle. Below, you can see the stumps of the old growth, the first forest that was harvested perhaps 50 years ago. And the small trees on the ground show how this forest was spaced. We cut some to leave more room for the most promising trees to grow. The core sample shows the results.
Right there is when we spaced it. And you can see by the rings they got wider after we spaced. Just like your carrots in your garden, when you space it, you'll get a much bigger carrot.
Here's another forest that was spaced, only this one was spaced later. The trees removed were big enough to be commercially useful. It's difficult to cut down some large trees and not damage those that remain. So selective logging works only on flatter ground and in young stands. But where it works well. Eventually, we'll clear-cut these trees and plant a fresh crop, just the way they renew the forests of Sweden. We think Canfor's a good company, firstly because of its people. This machine has a telescopic snorkel, notable for its exceptional reach. We might have bought a different machine if the decision had been made at head office, But the man who runs it, in this case, made many of the decisions about it.
And it makes it feel good when you're operating it, that it's for you.
Gordy Hermans was part of another purchase, along with 4 other men, none of them executives. So a group of you went to Oregon to look at the machine?
I was mostly concerned with visibility, safety, reach, productivity, clearance.
The consensus was this log forwarder. Canfor likes it because it moves logs without a lot of disturbance to the ground. We like it even better because our people chose it, and each person has a stake in making it perform. People pretty much decide what Canfor is, the people who work for us and who live around us. Many, for instance, enjoy the ski area on Mount Cain at our Englewood division north of Campbell River. It was initiated by our employees with help from the company. We're also proud of some work in our harvest area on the Sunshine Coast. Logging roads lead you in, where you'll find a chain of 4 cabins built as a community project with Canfor wood. Unfortunately, some people now want to stop forestry, prohibiting the industry that opened up the area. The cabins are for use free, and the messages in the guest books show many people appreciate them. And here on Woss Lake is one of 7 campgrounds maintained by our Englewood people. We have over 100 camping spots all told, and you stay for free at any of them.
We know every campsite in BC, and I don't think there's any better scenery anywhere than this.
So, what do you think? When I first started with Canfor, I really liked the company, but I wasn't sure that I liked what I'd heard about the forest industry. Now that I've seen today's forestry firsthand, my views have changed. This happens to a lot of people who come and visit us in the woods. So let's go see forestry, why we do what we do, and meet the people who work in the forest. This is Woss, population 600, the heart of Canfor's Englewood division. That's Bill Rushton, working on the fence. He was born and raised here. His wife Denise has always lived in a small town too.
I don't mind visiting the city, but I can only handle it for about a week at a time. That's plenty for me. Too crowded down there.
Here comes Bill's father. He came to Woss 23 years ago. They both work for Canfor. What do you think of people who live in the city who don't have a real high opinion of forestry?
You know, my dad was involved with logging, and so I've been raised with it, and it is frustrating sometimes trying to explain the good points, and I don't think people realize that we're actually farming the forest, rather than destroying it like they say.
Some people believe it's harmful to clear cut, take all the trees. Why can't they leave some standing? The fallers will tell you it's a matter of safety. So why can't you guys selectively log an area like this when I can have somebody come into my backyard and take a tree out and leave 2 or 3 standing?
There's a big difference between a big, like the wilderness compared to what's grown in your backyard. If you've got 3 trees growing, I mean, it's easy to take out 1 tree. But if you're in a big setting like this here, and you fall a great big fir, just look at the small trees that are going to get damaged just by taking out that 1 tree.
If you selectively log, 1 tree comes down, hits other trees, which in turn come down and can hit the fallers.
Or when we're not even there, but the rigging comes in and they have lines going back and forth, and when they hit one of these trees, it can pull it over and it lands on a chokerman who doesn't go home that night.
BC forests are thick. Even clear-cutting, a falling tree can take another one with it. If there were trees all around, they could fall unpredictably. Most trees grow on steep mountainsides. They are felled so they stop as they land. But if they roll downhill into standing trees, the results could be disastrous. It is healthier also for the forest to be clear-cut. The grotesque clumped branches are caused by a parasite called dwarf mistletoe. Mistletoe spreads by falling from larger, older trees onto smaller, younger ones. Each generation of tree passes it on to the next. The only way to get rid of mistletoe is to harvest the whole forest and start fresh. Here's another consideration. This big tree had few others around it when it blew down. If you remove some trees, the ones left behind are much more susceptible to wind. But the real concern is the forest worker. He wants to earn his pay and survive to play with his grandchildren. Another thing that bothers people is why we cut all the trees and then leave wood behind.
You can see, Christina, the rock kind of goes into all the way down and probably down about over there.
These days, the only wood left behind is wood just not suitable for market. This log may look okay, but the end shows the tree was rotting when felled, and a mill can't use a log like this.
If we were harvesting apples instead of trees, we wouldn't go around picking up the bad onto the ground, but we would do everything we could to pick up those good apples.
We try hard to use all the wood because we pay the government for all the marketable wood we cut. Wood not taken breaks down like garden compost and nourishes the next crop. Sometimes there's too much woody debris. Tree planters aren't able to get through it to the soil.
For this burn, I'd like Gord Skirchley to be mixing.
What we're planning is to burn off the fine slash.
Look at the map, we'll show how we're going to light up.
The burn has been planned in detail and is approved and monitored by the government.
You got a tanker unit, all the men you need for this?
The objective is to burn just the fine twigs. We don't want to get rid of the larger stuff. And we know the soil is moist enough to avoid damage.
Most of the nutrient capital and the wood will be left on the site. All we'll be doing is creating some plantable spots.
The actual burn looks apocalyptic. The pilot is a fire veteran and ignites precisely to the burn plan. We burn only about 20% of clear cuts, only when essential. The burn proceeds only in weather that allows the smoke to escape aloft, away from populated areas. And each burn is monitored closely. The fine slash burns fiercely. The smoke and heat for a few minutes are intense. Yet an hour later, the fire is dying out. Within weeks, trees will be planted. 5 months later, the burned area is filling in. Burning seems to hasten new growth. The weeds are growing like crazy, of course, but the newly planted trees have taken nicely, and in time will overtake the brush around them. To give you some idea, here's a hillside that was planted with trees 4 years ago. On average, they're close to a man's height now. Once young trees are established, they grow quickly. The crop here is 10 years old. Growth is vigorous and the trees are branching well. This is a more mature forest, planted 23 years ago. New branches are competing for light above, forming a forest canopy that is 10 or 15 times a man's height. Here's another concern people have: road building. Forest companies build many kilometers of roads each year to get into the forest and harvest the wood. Roads still have to be durable for machinery, but today they must also be environmentally safe.
You clean up, you can't go into creeks now. We used to walk up, get in the creeks, clean them out. Now we got to stay on the outer edge and put culverts in before we go over.
Road builders today must be sure water stays clean and has a proper path to flow away. Canfor is at the forefront with a system that harvests wood without disturbing the environment. You can see in this valley where 3 roads stop as the system begins. The system is called the long line. The main part is the spar and power unit perched on a road high up the slope. The line from the main unit stretches across the valley, can run out 2 kilometers, carrying a large motorized carriage high above the valley floor. Other lines drop down from the carriage to collect logs on the ground. The long line will allow us to gather wood in sensitive areas without environmental damage. This is one of the first times it's been used in Canada. The winch on the carriage hoists the massive logs off the forest floor. On sites where the earth is fragile, the long line system will be beneficial. The soil and nature's watercourses are undisturbed by machinery, and because of the length of the line, far fewer roads are required. Harvesting the forest these days means accommodating the other uses of the same land. This is the North Valley, a watershed. The runoff is collected to provide water for communities in the Fraser Valley. So that the water would always be clean, Canfor, the regional district, and other government agencies developed a plan.
What we wanted to see from the watershed management plan were smaller harvest areas and continued good road construction practices.
Dave says the plan is working. For us, it's smaller clear cuts and good ditches so that roads don't wash away. It also means special care in silviculture. New trees have sprung up, hemlock and amabilis fir, which have reseeded naturally. But we've added a third variety, noble fir, both for biodiversity and to get the jump on forest weeds, brush.
We planted this site with extra trees, even though there's some naturals here, because it's a very rich site and there is a brush threat. And we didn't want to have to come in here and use herbicides because it's in a watershed.
So the water is clean and clear as it flows to the Fraser Valley water system. The forest is also home to animals, and this is the kind of forest deer prefer. The complex canopy prevents most snow from reaching the ground. The ground is covered with new growth, which deer can browse on. And filmy, wispy lichen hanging from the trees is winter food for deer. Al McLeod is trained both as a forester and a zoologist. His pet project is to create new winter range for deer. The test case is this young forest. The trees, about 20 years old, have been spaced to let in the sun. Branches grow out more to keep out snow. Limbs are pruned high to let new plants grow beneath. And the new plants are trimmed low.
Cedars are a really important species for deer in the wintertime, or any time really. And we've had the spacers go through and just cut off some of these trees so that they promote more growth down lower so that the deer can eat them.
As an experiment, Al's transplanted lichen to some of these trees. Here's a cleared area that was harvested, burned, and reforested. Many people ask us why we went to a lot of trouble to save this one tree. The answer's at the top. That's an eagle's nest, and we want to keep our animal neighbors happy. Caring for the forest means helping all the creatures who live in the forest.
Look at that one there, that one there. 8 grams, that one there.
Dad, I want to hold it.
No, just look at it.
The fish are being raised in one of a number of hatcheries Canfor and Canfor employees contribute to. Here, the company donates the building, the employees lots of time.
We spend half an hour in the morning, at least an hour at night, and on the weekends we spend a lot more time down here cleaning and doing water tests.
Hi, I'm Larry, this is Mike, and ask us anything you like.
And here's something we know you'll like.
All aboard!
One hour.
Okay, well, you okay, Owen?
We've brought back our old steam locomotive, so you can ride the same route our working steam lokies ran almost a half a century ago. Along the way, we'll give you a first-hand look at the forest and any questions about forestry or about our steam train. So we're really proud of our steam loki, the same way we're proud of the work we do in the forest. We offer tours at any of our forest operations. We'd be glad to hear from you anytime. I hope you'll accept our invitation to see forestry in the 90s at our coastal forestry operations.